Low contact, no contact, your right to choose distance. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Escape series where we dismantle the roles, rules, and illusions of narcissistic family systems so you can reclaim your life. Today's video is titled Low Contact, No Contact, Your Right to Choose Distance. This is a subject too many survivors feel ashamed to speak about, but it is one of the most powerful decisions you will ever make. Because choosing distance, even from your own family, is not betrayal. It is spiritual protection. It is boundary work at the highest level. And yes, it is your sacred right. Let's start by dismantling one of the biggest lies you've been fed since birth, that you owe unconditional loyalty to people just because they share your blood. That being related means you have to tolerate abuse. That family means you should absorb pain indefinitely in the name of keeping the peace. That to love someone means to endure them, no matter how toxic or manipulative they become. That is not love. That is programming. And it is time we rip it out from the root. Low contact and no contact are not acts of cruelty, they are acts of self-respect. They are the tools you reach for when you have exhausted every other attempt to be heard, seen, respected, or safe. They are not knee-jerk reactions. They are conscious, intentional strategies for reclaiming your peace in environments that weaponize closeness. Let's talk about low contact first. This is often the first step in testing what boundaries are even possible with a narcissistic or abusive family system. Low contact means you drastically reduce access. You control the timing, the method, the content, and the frequency of interaction. You stop answering every call. You pause before responding to a text. You start keeping conversations surface level or neutral. You no longer disclose the vulnerable parts of your life. You don't seek emotional support from people who have consistently hurt you. This phase is critical because it gives you room to breathe. It allows you to begin observing the system from the outside, not from the fog of survival. It lets you see what happens when you stop feeding the dynamic. You'll likely notice that the moment you create space, the guilt tripping begins. The accusations start. You've changed. You're selfish. You don't care about your family anymore. These responses are not indicators that you've done something wrong, they are proof that you've started to do something right. Because distance threatens control. Silence breaks the emotional leash. When you stop being accessible, you stop being controllable. That's why they panic. That's why they start projecting. And that's why so many survivors collapse back into the old dynamic, not because they were wrong to pull away, but because they were unprepared for the backlash. You have to be ready for the storm that comes when you stop playing your part. Now, let's talk about no contact, the ultimate boundary. This is when you choose to end communication entirely. No calls, no texts, no visits, no updates, no access. This is not something you do lightly. This is the last resort after every attempt at healthy interaction has failed, after every boundary has been violated, after every ounce of emotional energy has been drained. No contact is not abandonment. It is refusal to be abandoned again. When is no contact appropriate? When the relationship is a consistent source of emotional harm. When the other party refuses to take accountability. When your health, sanity, or safety is at risk. When the only thing left to give is your soul, and you realize finally that you are not required to sacrifice it just to keep someone else comfortable. This is where things get sacred. Because no contact is not just a boundary, it is a rite of passage. It is the moment you declare, I will no longer serve the dysfunction. I will no longer contort myself into a version you approve of. I will no longer pretend that love means annihilating myself. It is the moment you stop asking for permission to exist and start giving yourself the freedom to live. And yet, many people hesitate here. Why? Because the guilt is intense, the conditioning is deep. The fear of being judged, misunderstood, or seen as heartless can feel unbearable. But let me be clear, choosing distance from abuse is not heartless. It is wise, it is necessary, and it is often the only way you will ever hear your own voice again. The narcissistic system runs on proximity. It relies on emotional closeness to extract control. When you remove yourself physically, you begin the process of detaching energetically and psychologically. That's when the healing begins. But only if you can withstand the spiritual tests that come with freedom. You will have to grieve not just the loss of the people you walked away from, but the loss of the illusion that they would ever be who you needed them to be. You will mourn the fantasy of reconciliation. You will have to face the truth that some people are not capable of growth, that not every story ends in redemption, and that some doors must remain closed not because of hate, but because of truth. Let's also be clear. Low contact and no contact are not just reactions to overt abuse. They are just as valid when the abuse is subtle, psychological, or covert. If you leave a phone call feeling sick, if every interaction leaves you second-guessing yourself, if every visit requires days of recovery, that is enough. You do not need visible bruises to justify emotional boundaries. Psychological injuries are real. Soul wounds are valid. And your body knows when something is unsafe even if your mind is still trying to rationalize it. Another reason survivors hesitate is the myth of the perfect parent, or the good child. We're taught that a good child honors their parents, forgives everything, and stays loyal no matter the cost. But let's redefine honor. Honor is not blind obedience. It is not enabling dysfunction. It is not sacrificing your mental health to maintain appearances. Honor is truth. Honor is self-respect. Honor is the courage to say, I love you, and I will not let you hurt me anymore. We must also destroy the myth that going no contact is giving up. Giving up would be continuing to subject yourself to harm, hoping things change while they never do. Going no contact is clarity. It is choosing your peace over their delusion. It is choosing your future over their pattern. It is choosing your truth over their performance. This is not revenge. It is reality. And the reality is, not everyone should have access to you. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life just because they share your DNA. Access to your energy is a privilege, not an obligation. And when people abuse that privilege, you are allowed to revoke it. In fact, I would argue that you are responsible for revoking it because your life is your domain. And the longer you allow toxic people to occupy space in your inner world, the less room you have for healing, growth, and real connection. Let's talk about what actually happens when you go no contact. First, the silence will be deafening. You will question yourself. You may even feel worse before you feel better. That's because your nervous system has been trained to respond to chaos. When the chaos is removed, your body goes into withdrawal. This is normal. This is detox. It is not proof you made the wrong choice. It is proof that you were addicted to survival. Then comes the identity work. Because when you stop defining yourself by your role in the system, whether that was the scapegoat, the fixer, the invisible one, you have to rebuild who you are from scratch. And that is holy work. That is not the end of your story. That is the beginning of your real life. You will start to notice your voice again, your preferences, your instincts. You will start to feel your emotions without needing to explain them to someone who never cared. You will find that your thoughts become clearer. Your body feels lighter. You may sleep better. You may breathe deeper. You may laugh for the first time in months. That's what healing sounds like. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's as quiet as peace. You may also find that other areas of your life start improving because energy is connected. When you cut the cord with someone toxic, it sends a message to the rest of your reality. This is what I will no longer tolerate. You start attracting healthier relationships, better opportunities, clearer decisions, because your boundaries are in alignment with your worth. And here's the most powerful part. Once you reclaim your right to choose distance, you become the role model for others still trapped in dysfunction. You become living proof that it is possible to leave, to survive, to thrive. You show them that loyalty should never cost your life, that love never requires silence, that healing is not betrayal, it is the most radical form of self-love. This is why I say, going no contact is not just a personal decision. It is a spiritual declaration. It is you saying, I will not be a participant in my own destruction. I will not play a role in a story that denies my worth. I will not be complicit in the erasure of my own soul. It is you reclaiming authorship of your life. And if you're still doubting whether you're allowed to choose distance, let me leave you with this. Love is not proven through pain tolerance. You are not required to bleed just to prove you care. You do not need to suffer endlessly to show you're a good person. You are allowed to want peace. You are allowed to choose it fiercely, unapologetically, and permanently if needed. You are allowed to disappear from the lives of those who never truly saw you, and you are allowed to reappear in your own life as your full, healed, powerful self. This is your right. This is your escape. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.